whenever you're trying to apply for a job, the whole hiring process, I always keep telling you, happens through trust. The company is trying to see whether they can trust you with whatever work they have, that whether you can do or not. It's not that you apply to 100 places and you'll minimum get 5 applications. No, it's not about that. You can apply to 100 places, but every place you apply, are you getting the feedback? Why is it that you're not getting the call, and why are you making an improvement? How is it that people can quickly understand what you have written in your case study by scanning from top to bottom is more important than presenting in such a way that people are forced to literally read everything to understand what you have done. Everyone has their own perspectives. Ultimately, you'll have to build your own perspective of how things work. See, actually, in general, the theme I wanted to talk about is because a lot of people are in this situation where you are applying and, what kind of companies you can approach and stuff like that, and give you guys some confidence and stuff. But yeah, go ahead, no problem.
So I have a lot of questions, but I'll ask one specific one, and then later I'll just wait if all the others get answered by themselves. So so for example, like right now when I'm applying to certain places, a lot of websites have their own career pages, and then you're supposed to fill out information in every single website separately. So a lot of times you have to fill out job experience.
Correct.
And relevant job experience. And even though I am from a design background, it was textiles and fashion. Like most of my work experience is either in fashion or in textiles. So I do fill that out, but then I just get a tinge of, I don't know, like, will they just see that and be like, oh, it's not even from UX, doesn't have any UX experience. So like, let's pass it off. And then I start this conundrum sort of pops up where I'm thinking, should I really like do an internship first? And I know that it's a good option. I'm not saying that it's a bad option, but the point is that I am pretty confident. I know that I will be able to handle even like a job position at this moment. So, I just keep getting confused as what happens. And I start feeling low that, oh, I don't have any like UX experience to like put like on paper to show. And that keeps happening. So like, what's that about?
Yes. So firstly, let me tell you something which will give you some confidence. This is, I don't know what the official name is, but this Anudeep Aigari's term for it, this is freshers dilemma. Everyone is in this. I was also in this. Everyone around you are also in the same dilemma. In fact, everyone independently calls me and talks the same thing. Kavya talks the same thing. Aditya talks the same thing, right? Swati is also like literally shouting also sometimes. The same problem. Okay, everyone is in the same soup, so don't worry. Not just people here, also everyone, obviously, because that is literally how your career beginning is supposed to be, because you don't know what's good for you and the companies don't know if you are a good fit or not, right? So it's supposed to happen. Okay, so the next thing is lot of people are there in the soup. They don't even have a lot of any idea of a direction which they're going. You guys are much better because you know the direction at least. Filtered out, a lot of people, even if they know the direction, they don't even have anything to showcase. You guys are a little better. You guys have something to showcase. Okay. Now, coming from there are people who have some previous experience, and yes, you guys are not having the previous experience. Okay. So if no companies hire freshers, then how will freshers even get a job? So it's not like that. People do hire freshers. Why? Because there are advantages with freshers. Freshers can be trained. There are a lot of times, obviously freshers come cheap, right? Compared to experienced folks, freshers come definitely cheap. Freshers come with very new perspectives. They're not already carrying some bias in terms of this cannot be done, that cannot be done, and all that stuff. They're willing to experiment. And if the company wants to experiment, they can deploy freshers over there because they can experiment, right? And experimentation usually is better if it is with low cost, right? So for these reasons, companies do take freshers. Enough. So the question is not about whether the companies hire freshers or not. It's not like that. There are a lot of companies, okay, they'll be like 1 year, 2 years experience we want and all this stuff. But when there is a fresher, when they can get a confidence that, okay, we can take this person, they will take freshers. So what's the next thing which is blocking in these things is companies do not know if you are a potentially good person or not, right? So how do they solve this? How do the companies understand whether you are potentially a good person or not? Usually the interview process, correct? In interview, they'll try to do multiple rounds. They'll start trying to, you know, give some assignments, this and all. They try to understand and reduce this risk of, are you a potentially good candidate who can be trained or not? Okay, they do this. Now, even before that, even if you have to be called to an interview, they should kind of pick your portfolio. That means they have to see your potential over there, right? Which is nothing but your whatever case studies and all which you have built. Those should be presented in such a way that they find you as an appropriate candidate to come and talk. This is broken down. The only thing is there are companies, even though they have that field called what's your previous experience, what's the relevant experience, you can just simply quote that you do not have any relevant experience. Okay, because they usually ask for relevant experience, and you don't have to worry about talking about irrelevant experience. You don't have to. So whatever irrelevant experience you have, you can talk about. I'll come and talk about irrelevant experience. I'm writing it down here. There are some important points there also. Okay, but you don't have to talk about your irrelevant experience in a place where they're asking you for relevant experience. You don't have to. You can tell them that you are getting started right now as a fresher. Now, right now, your focus should be on getting that first interview call. Is my portfolio reaching a lot of people so that someone will find interest in understanding, oh, this person might be potentially good, and call me for an interview? That's your primary focus for now. Okay. Did you make a good, is the case study, whatever you have written and the portfolio, is it enough for people to give that call? Yes. The case studies you should do here are good. Okay. That is there. Okay. But, okay, there are so many things here, but yeah, for now, first thing is, how do I make sure my case studies or portfolio is reaching n number of people who would potentially want to hire me? That's your only focus for now. Don't worry about anything else right now. Okay. Just break this down. Previous experience, you don't have relevant experience. So just put down that you don't have a relevant experience. Talk about whatever experience you have previously. Now coming to irrelevant experience, what you can do is you can convert that irrelevant experience and link it to how it helped you solve the problems which you have done in your case studies. You have something in textile or fashion or whatever, coming from fashion background. If you have that experience, go and write down, let us say maybe you went somewhere and you selected a cloth, right? You're like, what is it that you did to actually go and select a cloth, and how is it that helped you go and made it easier to actually go and understand preferences of people or whatever, right? Or maybe it kind of made it easier for you to go and find out people to talk to, whatever, right? I don't know, because that you can bring an example, but how is it that might have brought some learning so that you are solving whatever you are, how is that relevant to what you're doing in UX? That's the question, right? Indirectly, you'll have to pull that, because that is also a design field. There also you're doing something for users. There also you're doing some research and all in a different format, but there will be things which you can draw parallels and tell how does it specify that you have potential over there, right? That's the second thing. Okay. First thing, don't write anything in the relevant experience if you don't have. Second thing, irrelevant experience, you have to convert it into how does it speak about your potential. Two things clear. Okay. Then the one more point I told is, your only goal should be about right now, how is it that I can make sure I get enough reach for my portfolio, whether it is social reach, LinkedIn, or job applying sites or connects. A lot of times we misuse this, but it's a very important thing is a lot of times jobs do work through personal connects. Why? Why is it that you will have to, why is it that you will have to go and look for personal connects? It's because whenever you're trying to apply for a job, right, the whole hiring process, I've always keep telling you, happens through trust. Hiring process itself is a trust building exercise, right? The company is trying to see whether they can trust you with whatever work they have, that whether you can do or not, because hiring exercise itself is that, right? All that assignment they give you and all this is a trust building process. Now, when a candidate comes from a person's word, right? I mean, let us say you have a contact, let's say someone working in some company, they go and talk about you and say that, hey, probably this person is good. That adds to the trust because someone personally has referred you, right? So utilize your connections, everyone. It is very, very important. Don't do it. I mean, also you can do it through your social channels, but please utilize your connections. It helps, right? Jobs or even freelancing also. Freelancing though, like this is number one technique. Go and utilize your network, go and utilize your connections. Okay. Because it comes from trust. Someone has to hire you, someone has to select you, they have to trust you. Trust comes through connections. Very important. Okay. Now that I've told you, yeah. So personal connections also I spoke about. Social platforms. How will you get reach to your portfolio? How? One is start visiting a lot of these recruiter profiles. Two, start involving, start commenting, start talking, start asking questions wherever people, that talk on social media, all these experts talk, right? They'll put a lot of discussions and all these things, right? Start commenting, start posting your views, start asking questions, right? And find a lot of people in that manner. They'll also become your connections. They might probably have some openings and they'll also talk to you about it, right? And because of your social activity, let's say on LinkedIn or whatever, the social media platform also gives you relevant leads because social media networks work like that, right? So utilize your social profiles, not just simply applying jobs on LinkedIn, but going and involving in social activities, which means social activities means going, commenting, posting, you posting stuff, you asking for feedback, you discussing about topics, whatever, so that the industry notices you. Wherever there are recruiters, wherever there are people from other companies, other US designers, it requires some effort, but you'll have to do it. Okay. I did it as well. In initial years of my career, I did it as well. I found out a lot of people, I spoke to them, I connected with them. I used to comment, I used to attend conferences and stuff as well. Okay, right now conferences are not there, a lot of them. You can attend online conferences and all this stuff. That's also one more thing which is very, very important for you to keep building connections, start getting a lot of individual, what do you say, you can call it mentorship, or, not like a structured mentorship, but just so that people, you understand different perspectives from different people and all that stuff, right? That's one more thing, right? Then what comes? Okay, I'm not going to talk about the interview exact process right now. I'm going to talk, I'll going to talk after your question. But for now, if you do this, Mridhiba, definitely your chances of getting selected or getting a call for an interview will drastically improve. Okay. Not just the traditional method of just applying to a job through a form, but also trying to get inbound leads. That means, what is inbound? Inbound in the sense, you are there and you are getting requests. What you're doing right now is outbound. You are applying to those companies, right? If you do these things, you will get inbound. That means people will contact you where there is a higher chance of getting selected. Okay. Does this summarize all the aspects which you asked in your question, Mridhiba? Yeah. Okay. Anything else missing? Just think. If there's anything which is, or anyone else, is there something which I missed in terms up to getting leads for an interview? Is there any other blocker for you guys?
Anudeep, I have one.
Go ahead.
Continue.
Yeah. So, like, what I was thinking is the case studies we did during the assignments and the process we followed following the workbooks. It includes a lot of text. I mean, when we are making our portfolios, I've got these reviews that you can also make some deck sort of thing, which is scannable. I mean, it's like it gives you a glimpse of the project, and not a lot of people want to read the text, but to get the summary first, and then they can also read the text if they want. So how can we deal that?
I'll talk about it again. I'll talk about it. It's a slightly different question. Okay. I'll talk about it. I've spoken about it multiple times, but I'll talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Just remind me after this, but anything else? Who else?
I had an extension. Now, I don't know if this is exactly relevant to what we were talking about, but in the process of application, so there are two schools of thoughts, and I usually get confused in terms of what is right. Like one day I feel one is right, the next day I feel like, oh no, this is right. So like some people suggest that apply as much as you can, like keep applying everywhere and apply to as many places as you can. And then the second school of thought is that apply to selective places, like go through the description really well and be a little more, selective and like know the place a little before you step into it. And of course, I mean, that comes with altering your application also. But then that means that you're applying to lesser places. So what is
Yes.
like, what makes more sense? Like what would actually get you an interview? Like applying to as many places as you can, like just keep going, or just like be a little selective.
Let me tell you. Firstly, this is not a 0 or 1. Okay. It's not that, okay, state 0 is I'll just randomly apply to every company out there. State 1 is I'll be very selective and apply only to those companies. Okay. It's not like that. Let me explain. Firstly, it also depends on your experience, what you already know about yourself and the places you can work, right? You're a fresher. Right now, you don't have experience working at one place. Therefore, you also do not know about how companies really work. Your knowledge about what kind of companies you want to apply for is also limited right now, right? So it is difficult for you to go and make a short list of these are the companies which I'll go and apply for. It is difficult for you right now. On the other hand, companies also don't have an idea to judge you about what kind of work you have done in the past to actually give, find out if you are a relevant candidate for them or not. I'm just talking about relevance. I'm not talking about fit. Relevance in the sense, is let us say some person has experience only in SaaS tools, right? Maybe a B2C company might not find that experience relevant to this, right? Their choice again. It's not that they will not, but it might not be relevant for them. They might want someone who was already working on SaaS tools previously. Okay. So in this way, you don't have anything right now. So that company finds some relevance or you find something relevant, right? Now, what the school of thought about not applying randomly to all places tells you is, it's not that you apply to 100 places and you will minimum get 5 applications. No, it's not about that. You can apply to 100 places, but every place you apply, are you getting the feedback? Why is it that you're not getting the call, and why are you making an improvement? Iteratively, are you making yourself better? Then you will definitely get calls. Applying to 100 places doesn't mean, okay, portfolio, resume, apply. Then there is no guarantee that you will get, right? You apply to a few places, see what's happening. Maybe some places you'll get a call, some places not get a call. What's happening? What can you learn from that? Can you change something in your portfolio? Can you write a different story? Can you talk to different kinds of people? What experiments are you doing so that you can get the call as a first step, that people watch your resume or portfolio or whatever and talk to you, right? If that is working, go, and if those experiments which you have done for yourself are successful, people are approaching you, then the next step, what can be my, maybe my case studies can be much better. Maybe my representation of the case studies can be better, or whatever. Then the next step. In this way, you can apply to a number of companies, right? But are you learning something and changing from every time you apply is the question over there. That's why it is not 0 or 1. You got it, Nidiba? Clear? Madly applying, right? There are multiple. I also know where you are getting the school of thought from, because there are multiple influencers on Instagram who post both sides of the stuff. And right, I also read those posts. And that's why this kind of confusion is existing. But the heart of what they're trying to say is, don't just madly apply to hundreds of places, right? Improve and then apply. Again, the logic about applying to 100 places is not that at least 5 you will get. No, that logic doesn't work. Because if you are irrelevant, you're irrelevant to all 100, right? So experiment with what's working, what's not working, learn from it, and then keep on applying. Definitely, because as an iterative process, you will understand that, oh, this is not working, that is not working, more probably this is working, and then you will start getting calls. Once you start getting calls, once that starts working, you will keep getting calls. There are a lot of people who, it happened also, is they keep getting calls and they'll have to filter themselves out of the calls they'll get. Then get to that stage where you're like, okay, I'm getting these 10 calls. Now, where do I proceed my interview process with? Which company finds, kind of can help me for growth or the way of I'm thinking? Get to that stage. Got it, Pratibha? Clear? Yeah? Okay. So Ankita, your question about case study, the length of your case study, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So firstly, yes, definitely people do not read lengthy case studies. Okay.
Yeah.
Therefore, again and again, I tell you, everyone, you'll have to make your case studies scannable. How is it that people can quickly understand what you have written in your case study by scanning from top to bottom is more important than presenting it in such a way that people are forced to literally read everything to understand what you have done. It is very, very important. Okay. When people tell you to cut down the case studies and maybe write a summary, the reason why I don't recommend it to start with is because when you do that, okay, people who are asking you, probably they want to read your whole case study and they're like, hey, you know what? It's very difficult for me to get a quick idea of what you are. But if you go and cut down a lot of things from your case studies, a lot of times it becomes difficult when I want to understand about that particular process. It is difficult for me to understand what are you thinking over there. And the whole case study kind of becomes artificial, right? That's the reason why I don't recommend people to write short forms of their case studies, because you'll be like, they literally be like, research few questions, this, that, and then suddenly some prototypes and, no proper reasoning, all the work which you have done lost over there. So then what do? Do you write a 25-minute long or 30-minute long case study, which people will take a lot of time to read? Yes, you will write it, but you'll also write it in such a way that if I choose to read it in 2 minutes, I'll get what I need in 2 minutes. Can you make it scannable and write it in such a way that people can also scan it in 2 minutes? One. This is for a case study, let's say on Medium. Let's say you have your own website. Now, can you actually compress portions in such a way that you write the summary over there? If people want to read more, they can click on something and it can expand and you can read from there. If not, just goes back and they can read the outline of the case study. Right? It's okay that people scan and skip the parts which are not easy to read, but it's not okay that people understand that you have not done work over there. Maybe you don't know about it. It's even bad, right? So again, let's look at those people who are telling you, and let's understand the heart of what they are telling you when they tell you write down smaller case studies, right? So Ankita, I can see a little bit. So yeah. So Ankita, can you give me an example of those people asking you to write down, whatever, that making a presentation out of it or a deck out of it? Like, what are the conversations? How did it come? Let's understand their heart.
Yeah, so I've got a review from one of my like I know some people in designing, so I got my portfolio reviewed with them, and I did one case study following the workbooks that you gave, and then they told me that it's a lot of text to read. One thing, then second thing is like your solution is at the last. So when we are going through your portfolio, we are seeing that you have done all these things, but for what you have done those things is not like I'm not getting the motivation to go to the last, referring to like why you have done all these research. Are you getting my point? Like we are going from like understanding what all I have done, but why I have done these things is at the last. So the motivation is lost in 2-3 scrolls, that for what reasons are you doing all these things. That was their saying that I came across.
Probably true, right? Probably very true. Therefore, the two problems here. One is they are not able to read the whole thing because somehow the setup was in such a way that the expectation is to read the whole thing. Maybe you don't have to. Maybe your portfolio should be, sorry, your case study should be more scannable. They clearly understand what they can read and what they need not read, right? Again, as I said, this is a better problem than not having anything in your case study where people don't have things to read. And they're like, why these tips are happening, I don't understand. Okay. Because now if they want to go deeper, they can read what you have done over. The second thing. The second point about being motivated in terms of why is it that you have done, again, the whole workbooks clearly speak about that, saying that you have to be clear in terms of why is it that you're doing every step. The whys are there in all the workbooks. And let's say you're doing some cards or not cards, sorry. Let's say you're doing that empathy mapping. It's very clear that in the workbooks, I clearly ask you to write down why. Why is it that you are doing it? Before even writing down that you're doing an empathy map. Without the whys, people will ask you these questions. It's not clear why you have done this research. It's not clear why is it that you have done your empathy mappings, right? Again, if you utilize the workbooks in a textbook manner, then people will be like, oh, looks like there is some framework or some boot camp. And you just literally did the research because I've asked you to do the research, right? That's the soup you're talking about. Oh, we're not understanding why is that you have done that. So it's very important. Writing down why you have done it, linking stuff is very, very important. If it doesn't flow as a story, it will be understood that, okay, you're doing it just because someone has asked you to do it. Got it? That's the second point. The third thing is motivation. Yes. So what happens is experienced people, when they actually present, a lot of times they show the solutions first and they show all the background research and all these things in those stages. That happens in real companies. Even at Amazon, I don't present all my research work first and then show my solution. I present my solution first and then show the background work. That's how experienced people do it, because we know, like they also know that I am a person who will do that research or whatever to actually come to that solution. They know that about me. About you, Ankita, they don't know that. They don't know if you are randomly making some UI screens or you're a person who has actually researched something and came to the solution in a proper manner. Right? So that's your answer. Your answer is, okay, but right now I want to showcase that this is what I am capable of. I can solve problems and I solve it in a nice manner. Right? My story tells that this is what I am going to solve for. This is the reason why I've done it. And therefore, this is I've written like that. Right? So again, so when people give this feedback, first feedback, there might be an expectation that they have to read the full case study. So you have to change it in such a way that it will be scanned. Don't delete things from your case study. Maybe just make it a little bit better scannable. I'm telling you, this is a better problem than thinking that your portfolio is an artificial portfolio. It's okay. Okay. The second thing is, if they need motivation, maybe talk about your solution a little upfront. It's okay. But what you want to showcase is how well you solve a problem before just directly jumping into solutions. Because I've also seen those interviews where people ask like, oh, already solution. You have not thought about the problem properly yet. You have not thought about users yet. What iterations have you done? None of this can be seen. You're directly showing me screens. I've seen those, not seen, there are hundreds of times this is what students do. They just directly bring solutions in front of us, right? So how is it that you are writing the story in such a way that you represent what you are very, very good at is again dependent on. So consider these two things as typically like user feedback, right? You don't have to do what they're asking you to do. You have to understand what their heart is, what the root problem is. They want to judge you quickly. That's the point. So writing down a smaller case study or a case deck is one solution, but making a better scannable case study is another solution, right? That's why I said, let's understand the heart. The second thing, they want to be motivated to understand why they're doing all this. The problem, when they see all that research, because you are the designer, you know the context. They don't know the context. Usually people want to understand the solution first, because that's how people are, right? They're like, oh, all this is okay, but what is that you're offering to the world, right? They want to see that. So how is it that you can probably give them that and still make them see what is that you have done groundwork to get to that place? Do that. It's not about just talking about a solution first, but can you write a hypothesis first? Maybe that's why your mega project does this. Your mega project, it starts with a hypothesis. It starts with you solutioning. In the first workbook itself, you do a lot of solutioning. It says that probably because this is my hypothesis, this is the solutions, this is what I'll do. And now it's time for me to validate a lot of assumptions over there. You validate those assumptions and you change your solution after you finish your change, or you keep whatever based on the result which comes. And then after that, you go forward and again make the final solutions, right? So is there a way that you can present your hypothesis or the direction in which your solution might be going so that it can retain their curiosity and understand what point it is? That's fine, right? Do that. Again, feedback which is relevant to experienced designers might not be relevant to you as of now. So it's okay. You take charge in terms of what you want to show to people. You don't have to worry about how other people in the industry are doing right away. It's okay. What you are good at right now, showcase that. Right? Got it? But these PPTs, I'm usually against here, because you just make a small PPT, a lot of golden stuff is gone. Maybe the PPT can be shown when you are like doing a live presentation. There's a panel sitting in front of you. There's like a PPT you can show, and then in front of them, there is this full case study, which they can also refer to, or the annexure or whatever. But the presentation is taking you some direction. But just putting that presentation in the portfolio, no, right? That does more worse than what it can, right? Again, this is my style. Different people do different styles. This is my style, and largely I've been successful because of this, and my students have been successful because of this. Right? Because I'm hitting at those places which value thought process. And again, if you want to value thought process and people who judge you based on your thought process, do this. Got it, Ankita?
Yeah, Anudeep, got it.
Yes? Okay. And general advice to everyone is, you'll have to build your own perspectives again, guys. Obviously, this entire world has a lot of perspectives. Anudeep Aigare's perspectives are one. Multiple other people have multiple perspectives, right? Because they had their own experiences. Ultimately, you'll have to build your own perspective. That's what I talk in the first video in the entire mastery. Perspectives, the beginning. Some video will be there, no? What do I tell there? Everyone has their own perspectives. Ultimately, you'll have to build your own perspective of how things work, right? We are only offering a framework for you to showcase what you are. And how do you utilize it? How do you learn from it and utilize it and present what you are good at is again up to you, right?